Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Now in this video, I am going to be covering the best or some of the best farms. We're going to be looking together at some of the best farms right now in DeFi with yield farming. So at the moment, these are my current positions. I did do a video yesterday covering this in a bit more in depth, but these are my positions currently earning 67% APR. I'm quite wide on a lot of these ranges. My top position here, Bitcoin and USDC, is at almost 12% range. ETH and USDC here is 10, and then ETH and USDC here at the bottom is 15%. So a fairly decent range there on these. So how I look for positions is I use two tools really. One of them is VFAT and the other one is Crystal. So let's plot Crystal and I'll show you both. So these are the two platforms that I like to use. There is a lot going on Crystal, so it may be a bit difficult to sort of read, but essentially just go over to hot pools and yeah, you can sort of find what you're looking for, and you can sort of see how things are moving. I like VFAT though, so if we go over to VFAT, you can see here that we are in, again, 3 different positions. All of these are on base on PancakeSwap. And again, these are farms. So you want to come over to farms. Now, the good thing about VFAT is you can actually filter things. This isn't a sponsored video for VFAT, by the way. I use it on almost on a daily basis. So, but you can come over and filter out different things. So you can filter between TVL. Now this is filtering a minimum of 1K. I can do a minimum of, let's say, 100K. Just to give you an example there. You can filter by APR and a bunch of other stuff. You can also select chains. Now I have all chains selected. There are some of these that are obviously like you probably don't want to bridge to, like there's some ones that you've never heard of. So you can take them out, but I'm just going to leave it as it is for now. And then, yeah, you can just start searching. You can obviously filter this by TVL. Highest TVL is USDC and Aero, currently only 17% APR, and then you have a bunch of others. Now, I like to look for blue chips that are either paired with a stablecoin or that are correlated. So let's say, for example, Bitcoin and ETH, that is a correlated position, because if it goes out of range on the lower end, I'll be holding Bitcoin. If it goes out on the higher end, I'll be holding ETH. And I'm happy holding either one of those assets. I hold both of them in my portfolio, my holding portfolio anyway. So if my position goes out of range, I'd be happy holding them. Now, of course, you also want to filter by APR. Now, I like to have a core position of ETH and USDC. So usually it's ETH because it's wrapped ETH. You can just type in, ETH and a bunch will come up. And yeah, if we search by APRs right here, you can see there's a bunch actually right now. There's this one here, Supernova on Ethereum, USDC and ETH, getting a 500% APR. But don't let this APR fool you, okay? Because a lot of the time, these APRs will show you the maximum APR that you can get, right, with a very, very tight range. Now, obviously, we do not want to be farming with a 4% range in this market. So just be careful when you're looking at this APR, and also keep an eye on the TVL level. I like to go for a minimum 500K TVL is what I typically like to go for. So again, you can actually filter this out. Let's say you want a minimum of 500K TVL, and we'll just put 500 in there. And now you can see a bunch of the positions have gone away, and this is what we're left with ETH and USDC. Okay, we're left with a bunch here that we can start to test out. And this is the one I'm in here with USDC PancakeSwap on base, but there are a bunch of others. Now, this doesn't show every single position, but yeah, it gives you a good starting point. Okay, so yeah, this is sort of how I do research, and sort of how I decide on which sort of positions to go into. And you can see this one on PancakeSwap on base here has a almost $4 million TVL, which is nice to see. So you can also change this around, like you can do USDT, and you got a few here, ETH and USDT here, Supernova on Ethereum with $1 million TVL. That is currently getting, a 1.9 width. So you want to make sure. So for example, okay, let's go back to this position that had a crazy TVL here. I think it was like 100K TVL, but had a crazy APR, right? This one here. So if I were going to do the range that I prefer, which again, I'm not going to do any research into what the price is currently doing or anything like that. It's just going to be for the video purpose. Let's say we want to do 15%. So we want to do 7.5 this side and 7.5 this side. Sorry, minus 7.5. We have a 15% range. Now that's dropped down to 158%, which is still really good. So, this could be, if you're happy going in 100k TVL, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend, then obviously that is something to look at. This one here is doing pretty well, although I probably wouldn't jump into that because that is, personally. But yeah, I mean, again, you can just sort of filter like Bitcoin here. If you just type in Bitcoin, for example, all of the different Bitcoin pairs will come up and you can see different APRs. Like this one here, Supernova on ETH, again, very, very low TVL, but let's do a 10% range, for example. Minus 5. So that's going to get 40% on Bitcoin and ETH, which is very, very good. So, you kind of just have to filter around, play around with the different liquidity levels. Make sure that you know where you're sort of putting the funds into, what DEX it's on, making sure that it's reliable. Of course, there's always going to be risks. DEXs can always get hacked. But you just want to make sure that you're jumping into a reputable position with enough TVL so that you're not going to get drained, and a reputable DEX is what I would suggest. So these are the 3 positions I'm in, and having core positions where you're really just in blue chips is probably a fairly decent strategy. If there's a coin that you're bullish on, let's say you're really bullish on Matic. Okay, never mind. Let's say you're really bullish on a coin, right? Then you can search for that. Let's say you're bullish on BNB. Then you can search for a BNB position. It doesn't just have to be something like that. Again, you can get, let's see here, USDT to BNB, Thena on BNB chain, 200k TVL. USDT and WBNB here on PancakeSwap is, pretty decent. That's an 18% range and getting 70%. So, blue chips is what I like to farm. You can go super degen and go for like, ridiculously new meme coins, which I did actually play around with the strategy in the bull market where there were some meme coins that were sort of popping off on base and I was yield farming these meme coins. And, the APRs were in the tens of thousands. And yes, the impermanent loss was insane, but overall we made money because of the fees they were pumping out was just incredible. So, but yeah, I wouldn't recommend doing that because you will get wrecked on impermanent loss. I think in the end, I probably put in a few $100s in initial, pulled out more than that in rewards, but my initial went to like barely anything, right? Like $20 or something. So although we did profit overall in the rewards, the initial loss. So that's a complete gamble, which again, I cannot recommend. But yeah, these are my positions. Looking to start to scale in a bit more. There is another sort of yield farming protocol that I am in, which I will make a video on. But yeah, that is how I find positions and how I sort of judge it based on TVL and the APRs and see what I'm happy with. And check the history as well to make sure that it has been paying out for a while and all that good stuff. But these are the current positions. APR is currently down 64%, although that is still very, very good. That means that we are making around $200 a month on this portfolio. We currently have $80 in unclaimed rewards, and I'm just going to continue to let these stack up as the market does what the market does. But yeah, that's going to be it. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you on the next video. Peace.